How you doing? I'll let you introduce yourself.
I am wonderful. My name is Raelia Lewis. I am a model, author, coach, entrepreneur. I do a lot of things.
Nice. So we met years ago on a test shoot. It was a beauty shoot. And it was Emily and I. And you were the first next level model that I ever shot with. At that time, I was testing here in Philly with some local agencies and things like that. But from the outside looking in, you had the 80K, you were on a TV show, you were a name around Philly, like you were buzzing. And when you responded to my DM and was like, yeah, sure, I'd love to come through and work, I was like, yes, this is my future. I'm shooting with top models. I'm gonna blow up after this.
Stop.
And you came through and you killed it.
Thank you.
Showed up with nothing but a new strapless bra. You got right to it. We had this big day planned out where we did probably about 4 looks. It was makeup, product on the face. I'll show the images.
Okay, I remember.
And your movement was so precise. You weren't jumping all around after every time I clicked the shutter.
Tell me more.
And you were in and out in about 40 minutes. And you just had us sitting there looking at each other like, okay, that was an experience.
That makes me so happy to hear because you've never told me this.
Came through and killed it.
I love that for me.
One, I mean, I didn't even think you would see the message because you had so many followers and things like that. But what made you say like, all right, I'm gonna work with this guy? And how do you decide what photographers you test with and which ones you don't?
At that time, I was figuring out my look. I had just my natural. I had the little short fro. I even still had my gaps. That's how long ago it was. And I wanted to get signed in New York so badly. And everybody was rejecting me and turning me down. So I started to study like New York style models. And I started to kind of see like the style. Like they were simple. Their photos were simple. They didn't have a lot of makeup, not a lot of styling. And your work looked just like that. So when you wrote me, I'm like, checkmate. That's exactly what I was looking for. Perfect timing. So it was just like, it was alignment. You're dope. And the second part of your question, I work with photographers that I feel like have better work than I already have. I want to be the best. So if your work is amazing, I want to work with you. That's how I choose. Your work is dope if you're shooting with the big brands, if you are shooting with models that I feel like I want to look like, I want to be on your set. That was how I gauged who I wanted to work with based on their work.
Okay. You also, while we were shooting, mentioned that you work with some photographers, who work you won't post, and it's just like, hey, we're having fun, we're shooting. So what's that aspect of it?
So that's not entirely true.
Okay.
If it makes sense so now I'm in a different space in my life, right? So some of my pictures are strictly, I look cute. We somewhere, you pulled your camera out, I look fine. You know what I'm saying? But then some pictures I care more about because they're for my portfolio, right? So when it's portfolio work, I know what a portfolio style image needs to look like. And it's more calculated. It's more of a system.
So you have social content,
yes,
and then portfolio.
Exactly.
So you would work with somebody different for social content.
Absolutely.
Than you would work with for a portfolio.
Or even for like my brands, right? Like I was running a swimsuit brand and a jewelry brand for a few years. So that's my vision. So I don't have to be as rigid with how the pictures need to look. But when I want to get booked by like, let's say a huge brand, I need to figure out what I need to look like to get booked by that brand. So that's when the system comes in and I have to reflect and think about things and how does my hair look and am I simple enough? How is my makeup? But when it's for me, I get to have fun. I get to do different things. I get to be fine.
Okay. And with your social media, one thing I like is that you utilize all the tools that are available. You use Threads.
Love Threads.
Do you use Snapchat at all?
I do not use Snapchat.
You don't? Okay.
At all. I don't even have the app on my phone.
Okay, so TikTok, Instagram.
And Facebook. Yes.
How do you manage all of these tools?
I literally don't take them too seriously because I feel like social media can be really harmful to your mental health. I used to really just put too much of myself into it. I used to care too much about like engagement, followers, building an audience. I had to let that go so that I could have peace of mind and health, right? So when I use them to just connect to people and have fun. Like for me, it's not even all about business anymore. Like if something comes, it comes. I always make sure my page looks good, but I don't spend as much time where I don't put as much effort into making sure like the page is perfect and I'm curated. Like I have let those things go.
But at some point that helped you.
At some point, but I mean, it helped me on a surface level, but mentally I was like at home, like, is somebody gonna like this picture? You know what I'm saying? I want to be healthy. You know, I had to let that go. I like TikTok because I like funny videos. I like cat videos. I like dance videos. I like to talk a lot about my life on TikTok, about where I'm at in life. Like on a personal level, I like Threads because I can just write what I'm thinking. I can write something random and people can relate to it. And then I like Facebook because I get to connect to like my old teachers and friends and family. Instagram is probably my least favorite. We have like a love-hate because I feel like Instagram calls you to be perfect and curated.
I mean, you post a lot to Instagram.
I do, because it's like I said, it's a love-hate. It's a toxic relationship, right? Because like I'm on there probably the most, but I feel the most pressure on there. Like I'm forcing myself to show up differently, to be more of myself. To like, if you look at my feed now, it's not a lot of modeling stuff. It's just me trying on clothes. 6 years ago, that would have had me out here laid out somewhere. Like, what are you doing? Are you even taking this seriously? Like, get your life right. Now I'm like, who cares?
I had to mute you. You. And I'm gonna tell you.
That is so shady.
I'm gonna tell you why, because like you said,
lay it on me.
You post a lot, and my relationship with social media, I'm a very jokey, funny person, and I felt like you see people posting, you're like, oh, I'm gonna engage, I'm gonna say something funny back, I'm gonna comment on this, comment on that, and then you have to realize like, this is a work relationship. You don't know this person.
You take it too seriously. See, you the too seriously person.
I don't know. I got called out on it once. I think I offended somebody.
So you projected.
Yeah, I think I offended somebody and they didn't get the joke. And then I was just like, you know what? Let me just tone it back. And now I have that control where I see somebody post something funny, I can just say,
and you mute them.
No, everybody's unmuted now. You're unmuted.
Okay.
You're unmuted now.
That's so shady.
I'm gonna start engaging
I'm
gonna start engaging with your content a little more.
I'm gonna let that go.
Because sometimes you post some funny stuff. You're hilarious. You're hilarious. So I'm gonna start. But you know, I'm sure it gets to a point where you're like, oh man, so and so commenting on my video again. Here he go.
I get annoyed by the creepy men.
Okay.
You know, that's it.
It's a thin line for us guys, though. It's a very thin line.
So, okay. So I told somebody the other day, right? It's only creepy if I don't like you. If you not,
that's the thin line. That's the part where we can't
or if you like Mary, like get your Mary ass out my DM.
But
Mary just trying to make advances, not like Mary. Come on, we friends. You can write me.
Sheesh.
You know the Mary
that's why I don't comment. I don't.
You are so professional.
I'm to the point now I don't even like people images.
You so professional. So not you, but you know there's some married fellas out there. Some of them are photographers. And you know what's crazy is like I am cool with so many like male photographers, right? I've never really had too many bad experiences with working with male photographers. It's the ones that I've never worked with that are sometimes creepy. Yeah. The ones that don't know me personally, right? Those are the ones that need to stay out my DMs.
Stay out the DMs. Don't laugh at this. Don't think it's funny.
Your wife will not like that.
There you go. That scares them away. And so because you also are a model coach as well.
Yes, love coaching.
So when you coach models, how do you coach them on social media, knowing what you went through, where you're at now, and maybe they're coming onto the scene thinking, I have to have a big social media to be successful?
So much of my strategy or my goal with modeling, and this might sound strange, but it's really spiritual, right? I think so much about life is spiritual. So I try to make them first have a relationship with whatever God they choose or whatever higher being, right? Because I think you need that. This is a really tough business. And if you put your everything into this business, it's going to always be taken all over the place. You'll easily crack and crumble if you are looking for outside validation and if you are building your identity around bookings and likes. And I just want them to have just a solid foundation first. And then they also happen to model. So I try to make sure that they know who they are or are at least figuring out who they are outside of modeling. And then also they're showing up and learning how to be a model. Because God didn't make me to just take cute pictures. Like there's so much more that I have to offer the world. And I had to learn that the hard way. So I learned what not to do. And I am teaching these babies how to do it in a way where they are healthy mentally, spiritually, and even physically, right? So I'm not telling them to stay skinny. I'm not telling them they have to be a certain age or they have to be a certain height. I'm teaching them what a model needs to look like, what a model needs to have, how they need to conduct themselves in meetings and castings, and how to make themselves stand out. And also I'm teaching them how to build a brand, right? How to shoot their own images, how to work a camera, lighting, how to find their angles, how to use their hands in pictures, like things that can give them tools outside of modeling so that they can make money from more than one thing.
Has this led you to want to become a mother agent? Because I mean, I feel like it's right there. Like even as a photographer, there are times where models are like, oh, you should have been my mother agent. When I shop them around the agencies and I'm just like, I think about it. Then I'm like, no, I'm just doing this because I'm your friend. But I'm not getting paid in the same way you are. So
models are not loyal. Don't take this the wrong way, models, but y'all know y'all not loyal. They don't have, you know how you like.
I mean, you're loyal to your agent. You've been there.
Right.
Yeah,
but that's like character. That's a me thing.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't have like an allegiance to like who helped them, or they don't appreciate or value it. If they feel like they got a better shot, they'll leave you high and dry and go to that better shot. I have a moral compass, so I do people right. But I understand, I've been helping models out for a long time. I've been mentoring them, and I tried to do the mother agent thing for a while. And of course, with anything, like you have bad experiences and good experiences. But I've realized that I do not want to be in charge of making sure that they book. I would rather work with them and develop them and send them out. I don't want to be their full life coach. I don't need to be in their life all the time. They can stop whenever they feel like they're done. I want to do one-on-one sessions, maybe some seminars, and then send them babies on their way and let them fly. I do not want to get the call, why I ain't booking. It's been 5 weeks and you told me. I don't want to deal with that. Ain't nothing going on. I'm going to go sign with somebody else. Not my vibe, you know?
At one point, you did not have a agent, and I thought you were at a pretty high level. What was that experience like, and why do you think it was a little hard for you to find an agent at that time in your career?
That was a really tough time for me, and I think there were several reasons why I felt like I couldn't get signed. I think one reason was that my book just was not strong enough. Based on like the competition, other models that looked like me and what was out there, I really didn't know what to do for a long time. I didn't have guidance. Coming from Philly, I was trained by the fabulous drag queens, you know what I'm saying, on how to walk, and I did the hair shows, shout out to Hands On by Erica, you know, so I just was doing the more urban stuff. So when I decided I wanted to take it pro, I was too loud. My makeup, my clothes, my jewelry, my hair. So it took me years to be like, okay, tone it down, and then tone it down in a way where it's good, where you still are standing out even though you are simple, right? So when I figured that out, the next thing was, oh, we already have our Black girl. So then I'm experiencing like tokenism, like Black models are marginalized. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because it felt like no matter how hard I worked or how good I was, someone could easily turn me no, not because I wasn't good, but because there just wasn't enough space, or because I was Black.
Yeah, they had enough models on the board that...
Mind you, it was one girl and she was light skinned, but that's a whole nother conversation.
So at this time with no agent, you were still doing
I was
jobs.
grinding, I was hustling.
How did you learn about rates and what's your proper, how to properly charge?
I was talking to photographers. I was talking to other models who I admired. The first model I really ever looked at and looked up to was a model named Ashley Irvin. She's a Philly-based model. She's gorgeous. I hit her up years ago and was like, oh my God, can you give me some advice? So just putting myself out there, I was attending like all the networking events, the Philly Fashion Week stuff, just asking questions. Model Mayhem was huge way back then. I don't know how
Still right
relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. Be careful, models. Be discerning. But I was using that. You know, when you're in that hustle mode, you just everywhere with everybody.
You got a lot of time on your hands. You're young.
Yes, you're young, you're hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Bills aren't that
I ain't had no bills.
large yet.
Yeah, so I was outside.
So what are the pros and cons of having an agent and not having an agent? Are there any pros from that period? Or would you tell a new model, get an agent, go this route?
I always tell models to get an agent, because you will not get the great castings. You will not get the best jobs. You will not work with the best brands until you have an agency. You may get lucky. You know, we're in a different world now. So maybe your brand may see you online and say, we really like her look, but it won't be consistent work, right? You want an agency because they are going to actually put you directly in front of the brands. They're going to put you in the right rooms. And that was always my goal. It just wasn't happening. So I just had to survive, and I had to figure out how to thrive based on where I was and my circumstances. But ideally, I want to help models avoid my pitfalls and have a better relationship with the modeling game and a better experience so that they don't have to go through all the things I had to go through. So I will always recommend getting an agency. I will always recommend investing in a strong portfolio. Like, I never tell models to focus on testing. I've had so many bad experiences with testing from photographers just choosing not to give me photos for whatever reason. And, you know, we're both using our time and coming together, and that's currency, right? To have a great project so that hopefully you'll get further along and I'll get further along. And I felt myself having to just pull teeth to get pictures. I got tired of it. So I started putting my money where my mouth was, and I started hiring photographers. And that's when things in my life really started to happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you were hiring photographers in Philly or in New York? Were you taking
Mainly in New York.
Mainly in New York.
Mainly in New York. I was hiring photographers so that I could just start booking and get signed. I live in Philly. I did not know how to get into the Philly scene as a model because, you know, Philly does have a scene. So I went to where the money was, to where most of the opportunities were, and that was New York City. So I had to look like a New York City model. So I figured out the formula. I filmed the photographers I needed. I started to invest. It took me about a year or so to really like build a solid portfolio. And then that's when all the agencies started to be like, oh, we like you now. And that's when the brand started to check for me. So, you know, it came over time, but it took some time. And that's why when I coach, I am taking all of that experience and all of those no's and all of that rejection and helping them build a brand based off of all of my failures.
Nice. You've been modeling for some time. How do you change with trends? Because at one point, modeling was very, you know, posed and a little stiffer.
Yeah.
And now it's very casual, relaxed. I personally feel like models aren't doing as much, in air quotes, because they may be doing a lot to get these casual looks, but styles have changed. How do you evolve with the change in styles? And when did you notice, hey, I need to change what I'm doing to stay relevant?
Okay. I don't try to stay relevant.
Okay.
Me personally. Doesn't mean that I'm not aware of what's going on now. I just try not to put pressure on having to keep up, because I feel like it's another thing that could be a trigger for me. I just try to just do what I enjoy, and I'm open to being a student. Like even the day while you were shooting, you and I were shooting, you were directing me, and I listen.
Okay.
I take criticism very well. I look at commercials and I look at ads and I'm like, oh, okay. And I see changes, and I'm a quick learner. I catch on really quickly. And yeah, I just observe, and I'm just not afraid to try something new. I'm not so stuck in my ways where I think I have all the answers. Like I'm always looking to like learn and get better. So if I have a question, if I see somebody doing something and it works, you know, I pay attention.
How do models practice? Are you in the mirror at home just looking at your angles, or are you only practicing through the actual photo shoot process?
I practice primarily on sets.
On sets.
Like testing to me is like the best place to practice, because you get to, like when you spoke about me earlier, like not making these huge movements, I learned that by being on sets with photographers. And you know what's so funny, because they say that everything happens for a reason, right? So when I did all those photo shoots and I felt like they were a waste of time because I wasn't getting my pictures, then I'm like, but that's how I learned how to shoot. That's how I learned how to make those small adjustments. So even though I may have never saw like the fruit or got the pictures, like I learned something in that moment that brought me to work with you and other photographers, and it helps me on set when I'm working with brands, right? So it's just about staying active, because you can pose in the mirror all day, right? But when you get on set, if you lock up, if you're shaking, if you're so afraid because there's another person watching you, that picture stuff, I mean, the stuff you did in the mirror is not going to matter. Like you have to like be on set, get the flow of things, work with other people, get rid of the shyness you have about being seen. And I think you do that best through like testing and collaborating with like creatives like on your level.
Perfect. Do you still push your time on America's Next Top Model? Do you, because it's not in your bio, I don't
No.
think is, how much, are people still finding you from the show?
Yeah, like every now and then. So perception is crazy because I feel like this show was just so long ago. Like it feels like the most distant memory, right? I have achieved so much after the show, and I'm so proud of what I have done more than I'm proud of being on the show that I don't really think about the show. But I still walk outside, go to the supermarket, go places, and people are like, girl, you should have been on top. I got that 2 days ago. You was supposed to win this show. I said, I'm still on top, boo. So people are still discovering me. People still know who I am from this show. So it's nice, right? It's nice to have that kind of, camaraderie and that kind of support. But I don't lead into the world or walk into the world being like, I did America's Next Top Model. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I'm super grateful for the experience. I'm glad I did it. It was definitely a bucket list thing. And yeah, I loved that whole moment. It was just so exhilarating and fun.
So now that you've been modeling for a while now, what still gets you excited about the industry?
That's a good question. I mean, I still have goals, right? I still have brands I want to work with. And I love the creative aspect of it. Like I love shooting just to create beautiful images. I still love to see myself look different from one photographer to another photographer, right? I like to try new things. So I still enjoy I feel like the crux of it, like the collaboration part, the styling part, like building a team and just doing something just because we want to create beautiful art. And then of course, I want to make money. And I get to make money because I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? So that part cool too.
Yeah, nice. What advice do you have for photographers just starting out? Because a lot of new models, they have to work with new photographers.
Yeah.
They can't always test with
of course.
somebody great if they're not paying. Sometimes they may not have the money.
You don't have the money.
And
yeah, I've been there.
I tell photographers all the time, when you test with models for free, which I still do, you'll see who is very good and who has something. Test with that person 20 times as opposed to testing with everybody that's like so or not so great. And granted, those people will pair up and you will pair up with who you align with. But what advice would you have for photographers?
So I'm kind of getting into, I'm not gonna say kinda, I'm getting into photography.
No, you are. That's what we're going to get into your photography soon too.
And so as a model, I get two different experiences, right? Like I have two different perspectives, like being a subject and then being a person taking a picture. And I feel like when I look at photographers as a model, I look at photographers who master a certain field. For example, like I don't see you doing bridal, right? I'm not saying you've never done bridal.
I've shot bridal.
Right, of course. But you know how there's strictly bridal photographers, right? Yeah. They're strictly beauty photographers. I don't think that a photographer has to have a niche, but I do think a photographer has to do something really, really well. And yeah, that's just my opinion. Me and my friend had this debate the other day because I call him the a la carte photographer, where I'm like, if somebody got a check, you out there show up with your camera, you didn't even shoot this bar mitzvah. I look for photographers who have a certain aesthetic that I want. Like a New York photographer has a different aesthetic than an Atlanta photographer. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
some photographers I feel try to do everything or recreate everything. I feel you should kind of have a vision of what kind of photographer you want to be and move from there. I'm not saying pigeonhole yourself or just be one thing, but if you want to work in New York, study that. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go to Atlanta, study that. Just don't be everywhere trying to do everything. And I would say the same to models, right? You can be multifaceted. I do more than one thing, but what's your strong point? Where's your strength and work from that space? Just my opinion.
And where are you at with your photography?
I definitely know I want to work with models to some extent, to some degree. I don't know if that's being a photographer that's developing the models on an agency board or if that's the photographer who's shooting the brands. I'm still figuring that part out. But I know I want to be in the fashion realm for sure.
Industry, yeah. I think that's where your experience and your skills are best
Yeah.
utilized.
Yeah, and it's easy for me to just know the shot because I had to learn the shot for myself as a model. So I can see something and it's just second nature.
And while we were shooting, you mentioned that you took a break and now you're getting back into the industry. How did that break feel? Is it hard for you to now ramp back up, or what capacity do you want to get back to?
You want the same nigga route or you want
I mean, if you say, hey, I'm trying to get back to 2020, like I want the podcast, I'm writing a book, I got the TV show coming, like where are you trying to scale back up to?
So 2019 was like a great year, right? Because like things were flowing. This was before the podcast. It was just like my career was just at the highest it's ever been. Like, I mean, working 4 to 5 times a week.
Wow.
I had worked internationally already. I had like 6 agencies. I was finally seeing like CoverGirl and Gap and those huge brands. So I want to get back to that, but in a healthier way. Because in 2019, I was so uneasy and so focused on what's next, that I couldn't see like the beauty of where I was. And after having to take that break because life just kind of fell apart, I got dropped by my agency. I kind of like lost everything. And I really had to like sit with myself and figure out like, who are you? What kind of person do you want to be? And I couldn't hide behind modeling because that wasn't happening anymore. I couldn't hide behind money
Pandemic,
because
yeah.
that was funny. You know, a lot of times we build our identities around like who we are. I just thought I was a model. And when I had to sit down and on my behind for almost 2 years and cry my eyes out every night, I realized, oh, I like flowers and nature. And I started to figure out, well, what makes me happy and what brings me joy? And I got connected to God in ways I never was connected to him. And I learned that I was strong and that I can survive hard things and that I am more than a model. And I learned not to attach so much of my identity to anything outside of me, including modeling. So now I just don't take myself so seriously. Like, it's not the end of the world if I don't get a booking. Whereas though prior to that little ego death situation, if I ain't get a job that I wanted, it was like I would cry my eyes out. You would have thought I was losing a kidney.
Wow.
Now I'm like, it's fine, it's another job. You know, like it's okay. Like I had to mature. And I think that's the great thing about a rock bottom, because that was a rock bottom for me, is that there's no way but up, but you go through so much character development. I learned how to just appreciate life and the simple things, the things that I didn't have to work for. I value time, I value people differently, I hug people differently, you know, I appreciate them differently. So it's just like, I just see life so differently. So like, I used to really prioritize career. And now I really prioritize like joy. And career is nice and it's a part of what I do, but it's not who I am. So I'm not as serious. Like, I just have a healthy mindset now. And it's a beautiful thing. So work is not my end all be all.
So for the model who maybe just got dropped or is thinking they may get dropped, what was that phone call like? How do agents drop a model? Let's go through that. Not to relive the trauma, but
No, it's not trauma anymore.
Let's go through that process.
I've worked through those things. I've helped. So first of all, it was like I was coming off of like the most traumatic week. I was like going through a really bad breakup of 7 years. So imagine you live with somebody, you've been with them for 7 years, and then you get a nice little email. Hey, Miss Lewis, we appreciate your services, but we will no longer be moving forward with you. I was so messed up that I didn't even cry. I just laughed. Cause I said, life can't get no worse.
Yeah.
Like, you ever been to that point where you like,
I've been there before. It's
you
just
like,
one extra thing is not
Yeah.
yeah.
the worst thing has happened. So I just,
Did
go.
you find a new mother agent?
I ain't
or-
even try.
So you have agent in Philly, agent in New York, and wherever else you're
Yeah.
placed, and that's it. You don't need the mother agent
But
right
you
now.
don't need the mother agent, but that mother agent kind of like helped me get to where I wanted to go. You know, when I was still like lost and figuring out like my way, she got me together. I was practiced already. I had the experience. I was in my later 20s when we collaborated, but she really like put me right in front of like all the agencies. And she was also helping me get bookings too. She's awesome. To this day, she's amazing.
Okay, so you still have a relationship.
No relationship, but she's still amazing.
Did you ever, for me, I'm the type of person, I appreciate what someone did.
Absolutely.
they believed in me. Do you ever just reach out to her and say like, hey, how have you been? Like,
No, I thanked her for her services.
and just move
And
on.
just moved on. Yeah, it's not really my vibe because I don't know where her head is. Because you know everybody's so different. So when she closed that door, that might have been a door that was
Oh,
closed.
she closed
She
business.
closed the door. Yeah, she was like, "Thank you,
Oh.
we'll no longer need your services." Right?
got you.
She closed the door. So I said, "Thank you so much for the opportunity," and I let the
Left it
door
like that.
close. Right? And I was in a space where I was like, "All right, now what you about to do?" And for me, where I was, working harder wasn't going to help me. I've already done it. I've worked harder than almost anybody I know. You know, I done had podcasts, YouTube channels. I done did it all. I wrote 2 books on my cell phone, published them. I needed to sit down and I needed to be still and figure out Raelia and what Raelia wanted and how to really have a healthy relationship with life. I was having panic attacks.
Wow.
I was dealing with anxiety. I developed claustrophobia and agoraphobia. And agoraphobia is the fear of travel. So I started to have really hard times just with like these behavioral disorders. And I think it just came from just being in a crisis state of feeling like you're losing everything and your life is spiraling out of control. And that became a trigger to my panic attacks. I chose to heal holistically, going to like a behavioral specialist and just exposing myself to whatever my trigger was. So I'm afraid of trains. And I developed this fear like out of nowhere. Like the mind is so powerful because I flew to Africa alone. I mean, by myself and stayed there for 3 months by myself. And then one day I'm getting on a flight and I'm having a panic attack. I was not in the right space in my life. I wasn't surrounded by the right people. And I think my body was just trying to get me to just remove myself. But I was so comfortable where I was. You know, you sit in shit long enough, start to smell too good. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that my intuition, my body, God was just trying to push me in another direction. And the more I ignored it, the worse things got to the point where I couldn't ignore it. That's why I had to take a little sabbatical, get my mind right.
What does your work week look like now?
Right now?
So I'm saying on average, a month, so people maybe can understand how often do you work?
Right now, it's weird because I'm still very much in that healing, right? I'm still getting back out there. I'm still, like, I just took digitals for the first time.
That's why you posted those.
Yeah, like I was not pursuing it.
Okay.
I was 40 pounds lighter for a while, so I had to get my weight back, had to get my mind right. I had to get my living arrangement right. Like I lost everything. You know, so I literally had to figure out, what are you going to do for money? What are you going to do to survive? How are you going to survive? And then you're dealing with panic attacks and all this mental stuff. So it took me a while, and I let myself grieve. I let myself be sad. I let myself not know. I gave myself grace and space. And everybody was like, girl, you smartest girl I know. You the hardest working girl I know. You going to let this sit you down? I said, you're damn right.
So let's end on what's next for you in the model industry, and where do you see yourself in 2025, and how do you see yourself finishing out this year?
So I am in the flow of things. I'm very much like whatever comes, comes, whatever goes, goes, right? So I am just trusting God to lead me where he wants me to go. Of course, I know it's in this whole industry because I still crave it. I still love it. I still do everything really well. But I am just not tying myself to the same goals anymore. It's so easy to feel like you have to always be doing something and be doing more and be in certain rooms to feel valid. I don't want to get back to that space of, if I'm not doing something, I don't feel like I'm worthy, or, you know, just the unhealthy. You're an artist. You know the feeling of what's next. I ain't going back there.
Okay.
So whatever God has for me, he will bring. I'm prepared. I'm tapped in with him. I know. And I just want to be open to where life will take me. That's what I want for me.
Thanks for chatting, and we'll end it there.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.